Firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are covering Surah Isra and Surah Kahf. So as for Surah Isra, it opens with the scene of Masjid al-Aqsa and the scene of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam traveling from Makkah all the way to Masjid al-Aqsa to Jerusalem, and the whole Mi'raj is depicted in that. Now, very interestingly, as soon as Allah Azza wa Jal mentions Surah Isra, He mentions that in the Torah, in the scriptures that Allah Azza wa Jal gave Musa alayhi salam, He said very clearly that the Banu Israel would transgress regarding the Masjid al-Aqsa at least twice, in a very big manner, in a very great way. And Allah Azza wa Jal said at the first time, this is what happened, this is how He said, Ibadan lana, Allah sent servants that were not even people of the true religion, that came and wiped that place clean. And then after that, Allah gave them restoration, and then again they did the same thing, and Allah said a second time, that when they come, وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ, they actually enter the sanctuary and the place again where Allah has made the third haram. They will enter again. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ, and their faces will darken. And Allah says in that part that this is the second time. Then He says, وَإِنْ عُدْتُمْ عُدْنَا, if you repeat what you did again, if you cause corruption here in the Holy Land, then I will repeat what I've done to you in the past. Now, regarding this, there are many rabbis across the world who are clearly saying exactly what the Quran has said, which is that this place is to be shared by the different religions that want to worship Allah, that want to worship God in their own way, and it shouldn't be something that is exclusive to one single religion. And that's why when Umar radiallahu anhu, he took over Masjid al-Aqsa, he didn't make it such that it was just for the believers. Umar radiallahu anhu, when he came first to that church, place where they had the church, he never even prayed there. He prayed in a separate place. Why? Because he wanted the Christians to be there. Umar radiallahu anhu allowed, and they made sure that the Jewish people would have their right to pray there as well. So anyhow, the scene of that opens up by telling us that every time there's going to be corruption in that land by the Banu Israel, Allah Azza wa Jal is going to do what He did in history. And there have been rabbis for the last 1800 years that have been saying that according to their scriptures, exactly the same thing was revealed in the Torah, that they're not supposed to make that place an exclusive place just for themselves. So anyhow, Allah Azza wa Jal, after that, He talks about us and our deeds, and He says on the Day of Judgment, Allah will bring the deeds that have been written on our sides, He will bring that as a book, and He will say to us, Iqra kitabak, read your own book, and so on. As for any nation, when it comes to corruption, Allah says when He wants to destroy a nation, He makes a nation go to a maximum amount of corruption. And that maximum amount of corruption is a sign that Allah is about to destroy it. So put this verse with what I've said in the beginning. Anytime on the earth there is maximum corruption on any singular land and it exceeds the limits, it's Allah's sign that He's about to destroy that particular city. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us after this a number of things of hikmah, of wisdom, of the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these are things, 15 things in total have been mentioned in Surah Isra here. And Allah says, ذَلِكَ أَوْحَى, Allah says, this is something مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. This is something that Allah has revealed of wisdom to you. Of these things, Allah says, with our parents, to be absolutely excellent towards them, to lower your wings, as in lower your arms in front of them. Don't even say the word uff, not even expression of that. Anything beyond that is not allowed. Not even that is allowed. So Allah is telling us how to have utmost respect for our parents, and then Rabbi rahamuma kama rabbayani saghira, to actually pray for them, that Allah have mercy on them just as they nurtured us when we were young. Amongst the things Allah says from the 15 things, Allah tells us, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشًا. Don't go near zina. Allah didn't say don't commit zina. He said don't go near it. Anyone who is able to cut the pathway towards the actual zina is safe from zina. So the first of that is the eyes. Anyone who's able to move the eyes away from something that is lustful, that is the first step to make sure that we don't go down that pathway. And then the ears, and then the tongue, and so on and so forth. Anyhow, Allah Azza wa Jal has revealed in this, from these 15 things, Allah tells us, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Like, in terms of knowledge, if you want to go in depth, you go in depth. But don't be someone that is shallow. And Allah says, إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ. As for the hearing, as for the seeing, as for our إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ. As for the hearts, they are going to be questioned of what went inside them and what we had now. For example, if somebody has an evil thought and they manage to suppress the evil thought, that's actually a good deed. That's no longer a sin. So anything in our minds that's there that is not good, that is sinful, try and repel it so that it becomes actually a good deed. Now, Surah Kahf, the second surah that we are covering, Allah Azza wa Jal has given us this surah as a means of protection from Dajjal when Dajjal comes. And you can see, subhanAllah, straight away when Allah opens the surah, He talks about the Ashabul Kahf, He talks about the people of the cave. And the 7 boys that ran away from the king, who was an oppressing king, and the one that tried to, literally tried to make them leave their religion of Tawheed, of the oneness of Allah, and he tried to make them believe that He is the God. Those 7, they ran away, they went to a cave, they literally just fell asleep there. The next minute they woke up, they had woken up 300 years later. And this is Allah's doing. Now subhanAllah, there's a lot of messages in here. One of the key messages here is when Dajjal is going to come, none of us are going to have the power to take on Dajjal. Not even Imam Mahdi has the power to take on Dajjal. So anyone who's trying to think of anything in their heads, oh Dajjal, this, I'm going to do this, that, forget it. Forget it. The only thing you can do is Surah Kahf. But the beautiful message here is the boys had nothing to protect themselves against the king. The same way we're going to have nothing to protect ourselves against Dajjal. The only thing is Allah's going to protect us Himself, and that's it. And how He's going to do it, we don't know. But one of the things that Dajjal does is that he takes away the food from the people that don't believe in Him as a God. And that's what He's going to do. When He takes the crops away, He makes it stop raining on a certain land. When you say, I'm not going to believe in Him, and we believers, for example, in a certain land, He causes a drought. So how are we going to survive? So the Sahaba asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how do we survive at that time? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, because they were thinking that we're going to be without food, we're going to be without drink and so on. How are we going to survive? And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that his first day is going to be like one whole year. One whole year. And the Sahaba were really, dumbfounded and thinking, well, what do we do? How are we going to eat? How are we going to survive? And the Prophet ﷺ says, he says that day for the believers, their nutrition, their nourishment is going to be at-tahrir, is going to be la ilaha illallah, is going to be Allahu Akbar, is going to be subhanallah. And literally the believer takes solace from this, that through the remembrance of Allah is our salvation, nothing else. And we can actually feel a lot more energized through the dhikr of Allah than anything else. Anyhow, that's one story Allah gives us. Another story Allah gives us in Surah Kahf is about the person who has 2 gardens, and he has everything so beautiful, everything working fantastically fine. But what he does is he disbelieves in Allah Azza wa Jal. And his wealth doesn't save him when Allah decides to destroy the garden, because he wouldn't believe. Somebody's giving him da'wah, somebody's telling him, look, just believe in Allah. Why is it that you've got all these beautiful gifts? You've got this garden, you've got these springs here, you've got the greenness here. It's so lovely, such a lovely place Allah's given you. Are you going to actually disbelieve in the one who created you from dust? So he continues to believe, because he says that this is mine. He says, this is mine. And if there is a God, He's going to give me more than this. But that's not enough for a person just to believe that if you've received something from Allah, it's no sign that Allah is close to you. It's no sign. So any one of us who's being blessed with wealth, please remember that non-Muslims have also been blessed with wealth, and sometimes more than us. wealth is not a reason to show that you're close to Allah. If your health is good, it's no reason Allah loves you. There's no reason. Absolutely not. Health is one of the bounties of Allah. He gives whoever He wants, some less, some more, but it's got nothing to do with Iman and Kufr. It's got nothing to do with your wealth. It's got nothing to do with Iman, belief, and Kufr, disbelief. Allah gives it to whoever He wants. And He says in the Holy Quran, يَرْحَمُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. He can have mercy on whoever He wants. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. It's a bounty of Allah. He can give whoever He wants. Meaning, kafir or non-kafir, Muslim or non-Muslim, Allah can give it to them. So this person disbelieved in Allah. In the end, his garden was destroyed because he wouldn't actually believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Now the next one, a story that Allah Azza wa Jal gives us, a major story, is Musa alayhi salam traveling with Khidr. And he goes and sees those three things. Okay, and there's no time to cover the story, but there's a deep message in this as well. So Musa alayhi salam, he stands up in a crowd of Banu Israel, and somebody says, who is the most learned on the earth? And Musa alayhi salam thinks, well, I'm the prophet of the earth, I'm the messenger of the earth, I have to be the most learned, so he says, it's me. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla tells him, oh Musa, there's somebody else that we need to meet, who's more learned than you. So then Allah sends him to Khidr. Now this individual Khidr, he's a person, very, very, very strange person. He doesn't act like all normal people. He does very strange things. He does things that horrify you. Absolutely, you're horrified by what he just done. And Musa alayhi salam is told, Musa alayhi salam says, please, take me as your student. He says, you're not going to be able to stay with me as my student. Just leave it out. He says, no, please. He begs me, he says, okay. He says, on one condition, don't question what I do until I myself, I tell you what it is. So Musa alayhi salam agrees. They go on a boat. And then he started a boat that literally they took on for free. Musa alayhi salam and Khidr. Khidr starts to break the boat. Musa alayhi salam horrified. What are you doing? These guys just done a favor to us. You're breaking the boat. He said, hey, I told you. Don't question me. So he said, okay, first time, let me go. Just forgive me. He says, okay, fine. Then they're walking. They come up on the seaside. They're just walking. Suddenly there's a 10-year-old boy who's just playing, walking out. Khidr grabs his neck, twists his whole neck, kills him, leaves him dead, and starts walking out. Musa says, what are you doing? You just killed someone. He said, I told you not to talk. He said, okay, if I talk again, it's over. Then they're hungry. They go past a city. They come to a city. This city, la hawla wa la quwwata, they're very stingy, very tight. They knock on every single door for some food. None of them give them food. On the way out from the city, they see a wall that is about to fall and fall over. Khidr gets down, he starts mending the whole wall. And Musa alayhi salam says, what are you doing? He says, what are you doing? We could have asked for some food in return of this. And then Khidr said, well, that's it now. You've spoken the third time and it's over. Then he tells him what happened. He says, as for the boat, if it made its trip across the river, then on the other side, there was a king who was going to take that boat. Because when he sees a good boat, he just seizes it. He said, I saved them from the bigger calamity. I gave them a small calamity by damaging the boat. I didn't break it, I damaged it. So they're busy fixing it. And they're probably saying bad things to him. They're busy fixing it. But subhanAllah, Allah saved them from the whole boat disappearing. The king would have said, this is mine. You sailors go. So mine. He would have snatched it. He said, as for the young boy, if he had grown up, he would have been so evil towards his parents. His parents would have been in absolute agony and stress because of this child. And this child would have grown up as a kafir. So Allah told me to take his life right now. So basically the little boy goes to Jannah. And as for the parents who are crying, Allah's given them another boy inside the mother's womb. And that boy is going to grow up to be a very merciful child to the parents. As for the wall that I mended, underneath the wall there are treasures. Those treasures, if the wall had fallen, the treasure would have been exposed. If the treasures are exposed, they belong to two orphans of the city. Their father or their forefather was a very good man. Allah told me to mend the wall so that the two orphans can grow up. When they grow up, they'll be able to get the treasures themselves and have it for themselves. Now, what's the lesson here? The lesson, subhanAllah, is so deep here. So many things are happening in our life we don't know. See, we think in one way, but Allah is doing something else. There are calamities that are coming in our life. We see them as calamities. Sometimes Allah is saving you from a bigger calamity.
Sometimes Allah is giving you something better in return. You don't even know, like those parents who got the child in return. They don't know. They don't know that this one's going to become a kafir, the one that died. Subhanallah, he dies there, he goes to Jannah. As for the second child, he grows up as merciful to his parents, and he also goes to Jannah. So it's a plus plus. But we don't know these things. We cry over losing a child. We cry over losing something on this earth. As for the third one, subhanAllah, you know what they say? If you look at the tafsir, the father that was mentioned of the two orphans, they say, subhanAllah, it was the 7th generation great-grandfather. The orphans, fathers, who made the dua. After 7 generations, his grandchildren, from 7 generations later, they get the dua, subhanAllah. So you know what lesson here there is? If you're good, the dua you should make, don't say, oh Allah, my children, as in this child, that child, give them this. Never say that. The Quran never taught us to say that. The Quran said when you make dua for children, you should say the word dhurriya. Dhurriya is my progeny. Dhurriya means my children, and their children, and their children, and their children, children, all the way to the Day of Judgment. That's the dua we make. Anytime you make dua for your children, add the word progeny. All my entire progeny until the Day of Judgment. And that's how the dua reached those two orphans. As for the final story, it's about Dhul Qarnayn. And from Dhul Qarnayn, when he actually traps Yajuj and Majuj, subhanAllah, Yajuj and Majuj are the creatures that are going to come after Dajjal. Now, subhanAllah, there are people out there, you know, on the internet, you'll find all sorts of things. Some people even denying about Yajuj and Majuj and so on. There's no need to do that, because there are ahadith that suggest Yajuj and Majuj they can be not human, not even jinn, they can be something else. Now we don't know where they are for sure. We know that they're buried behind some wall. We know they're buried in mountains. We know before the Day of Judgment they're going to come out. We know they're going to become the biggest corruption after the Dajjal on the earth. We know no one's going to be able to take them on. And Isa alayhi salam, who actually comes down to wipe away the Dajjal, and he does that. And after that, then Yajuj and Majuj come out. Isa alayhi salam then takes the believers to a mountain. And that's the only way people will be able to rescue themselves from Yajuj and Majuj. And once that is done, then there's going to be relief on the earth. But we believe in this, we believe in Yajuj and Majuj, we believe in the stories that are there, and we hope for the best. So as for these stories, they've been told to us for us to be ready for the Day of Judgment. May Allah accept all of this. Please stand up for your prayers.